Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of HabsCast with Grant McCagg. And in this case, tonight, Liam Maguire, or whenever you'll be watching this. And welcome to the show as we continue to get closer to the start of games that matter. Although these next series of exhibition games will have a little bit of a decided different tone as opposed to the rookie camp games that we witnessed last weekend. Main camp is underway, Grant. Physical testing is done. The boys are hitting the ice with a little bit more temperature, shall we say, if you're watching the reports from around the league. I mean, you've got guys like Connor McDavid saying that was his best practice in a long time, the first practice with Edmonton. So I'm sure there's youthful exuberance across the 32 teams as everybody is filled with hope and confidence. Montreal is no different, I'm sure. First and foremost, buddy, how the heck are you doing today?
I am doing great. You know what, Liam? It's a great day to talk hockey.
It sure is, Badger Bob Johnson.
That's my
great day for hockey. God rest his soul. What a hockey man! What a hockey man he was. That's interesting. You throw that quote out just the day after Scotty Bowman's birthday, and of course, Scotty replaced Bob and ended up with another Stanley Cup in Pittsburgh there as he was working in the hockey ops department. Ended up going behind the bench and getting another Stanley Cup ring as a head coach to go along with. Well, he's got 14 in total, so he's the man. He's the man as a bench boss. But yeah, it is a great day for hockey, Grant. I know you and I we stay in pretty steady touch, and obviously most of us who are in tune with the game, we're following so closely on Twitter. It's kind of your go-to to see what's going on. And I'll tell you what, you and I talked about this about 4 to 8 hours ago. Everybody and their brother is saying, well, we can't wait for the games that matter. Everybody is so anxious for their own teams and for the league to get going. So I think you and I are in that same boat, right, brother?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even Habs fans in Montreal, right? There was a scrimmage today, and it was a packed house at Brassard. Vinny Rohr, I guess, scored 2 goals playing on a line with Joshua Roy. I guess they look pretty good together. Vinny's, obviously an outside shot to make the team, but probably heading back to Switzerland. But he, I don't know if you saw any of his games in Ottawa the year that he played there, but it's kind of neat to have that Ottawa connection with Vinny too. And I hope someday he can make the NHL.
Yeah, I did see him play actually, and it was impressive. I wouldn't have watched it, say, with the same eyes that you probably do when you're watching, especially the younger guys, draft eligible or whatever the case may be. But I did see him play. I took note of him for sure. I saw a good skill level, nice skater. And I didn't file a lot of other things away, but I don't care where you're scoring and when you're scoring. Everywhere you go and you come up the line, you're playing at a higher level, right? I mean, these camps now, this isn't the rookie camp anymore. Now you're in the main camp, and these guys right now that are scoring in scrimmages or whatever are going to possibly cement the fact that maybe they'll get 2 games. Maybe they'll get an extra look, in exhibition play, and then from there, who knows, right? I mean, we can get into some of the nuts and bolts of a few guys on the roster, but I love hearing stuff like that. I think it bodes well for the young man's confidence. And although we're pretty much assured, more or less, barring something really miraculous, where he's going to probably start or end up this year, more than likely. But it's great to hear, Grant, right?
Yeah, I think perhaps much like Kapanen last year, although Kapanen made the team out of the gate, like pretty sure he's not going to go down to the AHL. So they'll likely keep him around for most of the camp, I think, because it's either NHL or Swiss League, right?
Right.
So a player like him, I hope that they keep him around for the majority of camp, and they likely will, and give him a good look and get him as much acclimatized to the NHL, the pro game in North America as possible before shipping him back over to the Swiss League for another year. He's coming off 2 straight they've won 2 straight titles, Zurich,
Yep.
and
Yep.
also Champions League winners as well. So he's in a great organization over there, and at his age, the Swiss league's pretty quick, right, Liam?
Yep.
It's a half decent league.
Well, it's good enough for Austin Matthews. So, you know,
Yeah.
didn't affect him. If you look at his first game ever in the NHL alone, 4 goals. So, you know, I mean, obviously the leagues, I think
True.
those leagues we've all come to know in the last several decades that they're significantly better than probably we think or know. You again, anybody who scouts or has scouted probably have a better window into that. But they it's good hockey, and there's a lot of great players from different countries in those leagues over there that have transitioned to the NHL at different stages of their lives and have had an impact. So it's an interesting dynamic when you start trying to figure out where guys are going to fit on a roster and everything. So, but I agree with you. It makes the most sense to get them, keep them in North America, in this case here, Montreal, Canada, for as long as possible, and give them a good look and a good indoctrination, if you will, to this style and this game and things of that nature. So it's always got to be an eye opener when you're dressing for the first time, and maybe in the lineup is Florian or Arbor, and next thing you know, the gloves are off. maybe it's
Yeah.
just a little bit of a different look into the game, but no, I think it's great, man. I think it's great. Really encouraged by the little bits we're seeing right now. And again, you and I, again, in discussion earlier today, talking about some of the presser of Patrik Laine yesterday, today, I guess, yesterday, I should say, as we're taping this. And there'll be lots of footage on him going forward, no doubt. But what are your thoughts? What do you let's discuss what we're expecting out of Mr. Laine this year as he
Yeah.
finishes this final year here of the two with Montreal after he was picked up in the trade.
Well, I thought it was an interesting press conference with him yesterday. He's I you know, the knock has been sometimes on his personality or whatever, and I find him quite engaging. I think he's got good character as far as I'm concerned, and some of those things have been overblown in the past. I think maybe because of what happened in Winnipeg and stuff, but y y I don't think you put it all on his shoulders, what all of the, it takes 2 to tango, as they say, and I don't know that you can blame, Laine necessarily for some of the friction that was in that dressing room back when he was and you gotta also keep in mind that he was, like, 19, 20 years old. He was a top 2 pick, and I think there might have been a little bit of, he came in his first 2 years, Liam, like, he's put up the best stats anybody in the past 15 years, his first 2 years since McDavid, I think. Um, Great stats as a rookie, and the second year he was outscoring, Matthews really early in his career, and I think maybe, everything came kinda naturally to him. I don't know how hard he worked off the ice at that time, and I think there was a little bit of envy maybe with some of the older guys in the dressing room there, had something to do with it, but, I think he's figured out that he needs to work hard in the off season. He kept bringing up the fact that he's, he's been healthy all summer for the first time in years, and that it enabled him to practice like I think he said he only skated twice last summer, which I found interesting, going into camp. It kinda showed when he finally came back, but he's in a lot better, condition skating-wise, I think, than he was last year, and that to me is gonna make a big difference in him because when he's moving and, like, he's got such a long reach and, really good with the puck when he's got time and space, and he's got time and space when he's moving his feet and skating, and I think we're gonna see a big difference in his playmaking, this year because I believe that his skating will be better, and he'll be able to find that time and space to make the nice plays that he's fully capable of doing.
Yeah, I like all that. He to me presents one of the why factors on Montreal. You know, you got your X, you got your Y. Your X's, your Suzuki's, and Caulfields, and you know, Goulet, if you will, to an extent, and Hudson. We're all waiting to see what he does in year 2, and certain other variables that I think there'll be some consistency. I think we can count on. Laine was such a breath of fresh air when he finally took the ice and was firing BBs, and the power play goals were. I mean, it fired up the entire fan base, and obviously got us a few W's and a few points in the standings. You can't deny that. And then, you know, teams figured it out, started marking him a little more, and we know how it went toward the end and the couple games that he played in the playoffs. With a case like Laine, for me, Grant, the way I look at it is we can speculate till the cows come home, because we're going to see very soon here exactly if he is going to be the type of guy that you're talking about right now. He knows what he has to do. And I think his whole attitude on the ice, his body language, and his give an F meter need to have a major adjustment, not just optically, but tangibly as well. And we know he's got the shot. I like what you're thinking here about the playmaking, because that could add an extra dimension if he can get dishing with a little bit more success as well. You also got a, like, this projected line with Dach and Demidov. There's zero chance of that happening, in my opinion. Zero. I don't see it at all. Like, these guys, Dach and Laine, right now are borderline reclamation projects. Kirby Dach at 24, it's put up. It's put up time. And that includes staying healthy. And, you know, if he gets injured again, God forbid, or just can't get out of quicksand, and we're all hoping that's not the case. And you got Laine here, which guy is going to show up? The guy with the Jets in those first couple of years, or the guy who's bounced around out of Winnipeg, out of Columbus, you know, and then with Montreal at the end of the season, whatever. And which guy's showing up? I mean, combined, they're like minus $1 billion. And you're going to throw them with a rookie who's right now probably the favorite for the Calder Trophy. Myself, personally, I don't see this happening. I don't see Marty St. Louis or the Hugo combo there making that as a line. We'll see if they get a game or two. If they get a game in preseason or two, and they show some chemistry, and I don't know that they will or not with all three of them. Maybe they will. If they do, great. We'll get a look. But right now, I think that's a scary proposition to put Demidov with those two guys until we see what we've got from them. That's great that Kirby's skating, and I haven't been there. I haven't witnessed it, so I don't know how he's really looking. But we're going to find out here real quick. That's what we're all dying for here. There's a lot of speculation. I think these guys it's going to play itself out here. You know the way it works. First 10 games is your window, right? You got 10 games. You got Thanksgiving, Canadian, American, Christmas, trade deadline. Now it's going to be the Olympic break. You get all these breaks of the season that are measuring sticks, and we're going to see where everybody is. But I'm hopeful for Laine. I like the fact he's been skating this summer. Plus, just visually, like he looks good. He looks slim. You know, like he looks like he's a little tighter. I'm making mountain out of a molehill maybe, but he looks tighter. But look, he's aloof. He's been through the ringer. He's had issues off the ice. That's well documented. And so I remain very hopeful, because he needs to earn a contract beyond this year. No. So you got to go out and I'm hopeful that bodes well for Montreal, because he is going to try and have more of a complete game, which includes things like effort and just optically giving a crap. That it just looked, I'm sure internally in his heart, he probably did, but just the way it was projected to fans at certain times last year, especially at the end, I think it was a little tough to really see that. And I'm hopeful for that. And I'm just hoping Kirby can find his groove, man, that he had before even that first injury in the World Juniors, and that friggin' pre-tourney game against the Russians when he suffered the hand injury when he was with the Hawks and got hurt with Team Canada, and we lost him for the tourney. Such a huge blow. He was looking even so good the little bit we had seen. I don't know we've ever seen the guy. really look as good as he was projected where he went. So reclamation projects for me, man, they got to step up. They're the Y factors. And I just don't know if Demidov's a good fit on that line. I don't know how you see it.
Yeah. Well, Demidov's good defensively. He might end up being the best
At
of the
19.
three.
I mean, if he's not a guy I'd be putting out there to count to play.
Well, I 2 years ago, before he blew out his knee, the season before that Dach played, I saw a lot of good things from him defensively. Down low, he came back and he was almost like a third defenseman out there a lot of nights, and really impressed me away from the puck. Last year, I think with both of them more than anything, Liam, it's being in shape. And that had, that was Laine's big issue, and he's admitted it, that he didn't have the legs last year, and he swears that he does now. And
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll have a good idea even in exhibition season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But Laine, for his career, is a 30 assist player per 82 games. That's second best on the Canadians. So I think his playmaking ability is underrated. And that was playing like on a Winnipeg team where he was playing with like Paul Stastny, as a centerman. And Kirby Dach, we'll see. It's the big question mark. I think more so Dach than Laine, because Laine for his career is a 35 goal, 65-point scorer.
Yeah.
So yes, he's had some ups and downs. Traded, I think, in part because of the friction in the dressing room more than anything in Winnipeg. And he was a young guy, and I've seen maturity from him since he was. I think that he's figuring it out at 27. He's still only 27, so he's in his prime.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah. The guy's young. They're young. Dach's 24.
Yeah.
He's 27. These guys are young. For God's sake, they're in their 20s. You remember your 20s, Grant?
Vaguely. That was
what a decade.
That was back in the 80s there, Liam.
Yeah, well, I'm just a tad older than you, I think. So I turned 20 in the 70s, actually. Actually, I turned my last night as a teenager was the night Montreal won the Stanley Cup in Game 5 against the Rangers, and I was there in the building. My May 21, 79, my last night as a teenager. I turned 20 the next day, May 22nd. So it began a different decade.
Yeah.
For the Habs too, but they still had a hell of a run in the 80s. They were a very, very good team for many of those years, and they played well. We're all hoping to get back to that. So I guess the way I look at it, and I'm gonna turn on something on here else in a second, but the way I look at it is we're speculating. That's all you can do. We know Laine's had some seasons. You've already talked average numbers, this and that. He looks in great shape. He's skating more this summer than he has the previous number of years. Dach, of course, recovering again from yet another injury. So how's he going to look when the games matter and we're going to get exhibition? Then you'll get regular season. These guys are automatic on the roster.
He looks slimmer too, actually, than he did last year. I thought his face was pretty round last year. And there's it's square. He's lost some weight, and I think that Jeff Gorton on it. Eric was pointing out the other day. He kind of called him out in the press conference to end the season. Not like Gorton to do that too, and sort of, it was a message to him loud and clear that hey, put in the work this off season. It's make or break time. And I found it interesting that Marty said, he's our second line center before camp even started. I wasn't real crazy about that, but there's a method to his madness. And we'll figure out if it was the right call or not.
Yeah, I always defer to the NHL coach, but it's even though Marty came from basically Bantam or whatever, but other than a couple seasons as a consultant, I think. But I mean, he sure got his feet wet here with Montreal in the last couple of years, and I think he's in the same category as the whole franchise is because they've been number one with a bullet here. Yeah, they didn't have a 30-point improvement or something like Anaheim, but they've been just nothing but coming up the last 4 years. And
True.
last year was just a phenomenal breath of fresh air. The way they came back from that slide before the Four Nation break to come back and finish the season the way they did, it would have been so easy to mail it in. And there were so many superlative efforts, that not the least of which was just a consistency out of Hudson. It just drove so much offense. And now with Noah Dobson there, it's well, let's switch gears to that a little bit, because really feeding off what we're reading online from other sources and whatnot, that Mike Matheson, where I thought it was going to be a foregone conclusion, he'd be gone even before camp. I thought that, and who knows, Hughes may have tried to move him to get in some other help down the middle. We don't know, but now, talk at least, whether how accurate it is or not, shed some light on it if you can, if you know anything or have heard anything, or what are your thoughts of Montreal hanging on to Matheson?
Well, I thought they would. We had that discussion, and I think our first show, that Matheson's sticking around till at least the trade deadline, I think.
Right.
Maybe right through the playoffs, depending on how competitive they are. I know that the coaching staff and management loves him, and they certainly praise him up and down. But yeah, paired with Dobson, hey, Matt, who's been the 28-minute a game defenseman the last 2 years? It was Matheson, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a shock that the guy that played the most minutes is now paired with the guy who's gonna probably play the most minutes now. So I think it's a good thing that maybe Hudson's ice time is going to be dialed back a bit in year 2, where he's not asked to play 25 minutes a night as a sophomore in the NHL, despite how great he looked last year anyway. Although saying that, it wouldn't shock me if he ends up playing 25 plus minutes again, because it seems like every year, start from college or the development program on, he always ends up logging tons of ice time, because
he's getting
it's hard to keep him off the ice.
Yeah, where you don't want him up in that, really hardly at all north of that, other than extenuating circumstances in a game. But by and large, average wise, 25-ish, give or take a few seconds type thing. I think that's where he should be. You need look no further than what happened here in Ottawa with Thomas Chabot. And they just rolled that guy out there on a conveyor belt night in and night out. And he's pushing 30 minutes for 2 or 3 years. You cannot tell me that has not had an effect on his play, as that team has been projected by not all, but a lot of people in hockey circles to be a playoff team going back to before last year. You got to go back a couple of years when they first started being in conversation for a lot of people. And then, the definitive rubber stamp there from Elliot Friedman at the start of the season last year. And I looked even at Christmas time or a few weeks after that, maybe that they were going to maybe falter again, but give them credit. They came on hard, and Chabot seems to me maybe finding a groove, but I think he'd be the perfect recent example of how you want to really not burn out a rookie D, sophomore D, highly projected D to be a quarterback on so many assets, so many parts of your team. So I think Hudson 25 is definitely going to happen. And Mike Matheson, I just, like I said, I didn't, you're right. I'd forgotten we talked about it earlier, to be honest. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I projected it would be gone then. And now they're talking about maybe extending the guy or something. I don't see it happening. I think he's expendable. And I think at some point this season he's going. But I also think at some point this season, the Montreal Canadiens are going to get Sidney Crosby.
I would not be shocked. I first suggested it last spring or early in the summer. Hey, where did his old man get drafted?
Yeah.
Who did they cheer for?
I know.
What was their team? You know?
Everybody knows that. Everyone knows the
I
little
know,
bit
but
of synergy
if he's
there.
going anywhere, I think it will be Montreal.
So do I. So
If
do
he
I.
goes anywhere, I think that's where he'll end up.
Well,
He's here.
there's nobody projecting them to do anything right this year, and they haven't won a playoff round since 2018. Sid will have the Olympics to fuel them here through the season, but if the team is languishing, and if you're 6 or 8 points out as you turn the dial to 2026 or something, there's just no way you're making up that ground. I don't think it's any disrespect to Pittsburgh just because he wouldn't necessarily follow Mario. And I mean, the next greatest Penguin is obviously Sid, but before him was Jagger, and he bounced around like an Indian rubber ball. So he's always going to be known for those Stanley Cups with the Penguins. First one he won, he was on the third line with Brian Trottier. So, by the time he became the best player in the world, he was transitioning out of Pittsburgh and into Washington. So I don't think it'll be any black mark on Sid if this happens. And I thought, you're talking about press conferences, I thought the first comments that he said sort of left a little crack open. It's like people starting to speculate even how Connor McDavid handled his first presser there off the ice, and saying, yeah, there's nothing really going on, in terms of same old in terms of contract talks. Got people freaking out at Edmonton, people freaking out in Minnesota because of Kaprizov, people freaking out in New Jersey because of Hughes. I mean, it's out there, man. So there isn't any real games to talk about, but there's still some hockey stuff going on. But I know, look, I'm kind of obviously tongue in cheek here, but I really think that Pittsburgh will be out of it. Montreal allegedly have made overtures just even superficially. The fit is there. We know that. So I think it could happen.
Well, that's not me messaging you, by the way.
No, yeah. Sorry, man. Calls, non-stop, man. Non-stop.
You're a popular man. It's not Stefan Richer, is it?
No. Okay. No. I will have some guests coming up on the Montreal Forum on my show. I head out. I think some people, not maybe many, but some may know that for the last couple of winters, I've been working for a company called Legends of Hockey out of St. John, New Brunswick. It's a company run by Steve Walton, and he took it over in 2008, and it died during COVID, as so many things did. Anybody who was doing anything publicly. And he just thought when the restrictions got lifted, he kicked the tires on bringing it back, trying to resuscitate it, and he did. And his MC was an American guy out of Massachusetts, and he'd been with him for a number of years. And he phoned Steve, and he said, "I'm never going to Canada again." So Steve was out at MC, and I happened to be on stage in Prince Edward Island in Mill River, and he came up to me after. He said, "Hey, I may have a job for you if you're interested." So I will be.
For you, Laine.
Well, Grant, it's right up my alley. Obviously, I do all the microphone work for these guys, and Chris Nyland coaches. So we're going to get him. Brian Scruglan almost never misses, and Lucien Deblois has been pretty regular with the group. And I know one of these next two, Stefan Richer, who I am trying to get on the show. I was trying before we even went on the trip, which is next week, I should say, the 25th, I think I'll leave. And then there's others. There's a few other guys with Montreal Canadian connections that appear every now and then. So I will be getting every single one of them on the Montreal Forum at some point in these tours, because we're out there for 5 to 10 days. Some of them are 10-day trips. It's incredible. Really is. 5-6 appearances. We've been all across the country. We've been from St. Pierre and Miquelon off the coast of Newfoundland all the way to Whitehorse. So it's been quite something. But we'll get some guests on for the great Montreal Canadian fans. And once we get some games going, I know you were discussing you may do some live commentary on the occasional Saturday night. I'd like to partake in some of those as the season winds on here, and we get her going. And I'll tell you what, man, we could get. I hope, cautiously optimistic, we're going to have a great start, and the boys will really feel their oats here, and we're chomping at the bit, and they'll build some confidence. And let's just a couple more, Grant, before I got to go. Get your thoughts on a couple other things. Matheson, we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah, it looks like right now early projections maybe playing with Noah. It's an interesting matchup for me too. But it's just so much potential, right? When you bring in Noah Dobson at 25 and a right-hand shot with 71 points 2 years ago, was just unfreaking believable. If things really click here for the Habs, they could be pretty scary these first 8 or 10 games, which is what we're all hoping for. But just your thoughts on I heard you and Eric discussing Jakai. That is how you correctly pronounce it, but the sheriff. I mean, he's got to be in the lineup to me. Hopefully, more nights than not, so he can develop some consistency. Let me ask you this. You and Eric discussed that pretty good, so I don't mean for you to rehash that. But what do you think about his brother? What do you know, and what have you seen? What are your thoughts on Florin?
He just keeps progressing each camp that you see him. Like 3 years ago, I don't think he was playing junior hockey, or he was just starting out, and he went from being a fourth liner in his first year junior to being on the first line. And then last year, 24 goals and 180 penalty minutes. The first guy since Zenon Konopka, I believe.
My man Z.
Yeah, an Ottawa connection there, right, Liam? And and he needed to put on weight, and I think he probably still does to play the style that he wants to play in the NHL. I think he's a year away, Liam, but he was impressive at the rookie tournament. They put him on the line with Demidov and Kapanen, and made a lot of good plays. He can play. He's the type of guy that I think can play anywhere in the lineup. He can play on the wing. He can play at center. He can play with skilled players. He can play an energy tough role with energy players.
I think he gets games this year. I really believe he's going to get games.
Well, I mean, there's injuries. There's always injuries, and
that's why. That's what I'm referring to. You know, we're always
Joshua Waugh, I think, is in the mix too.
Yeah,
he showed up in camp in shape this year, and it depending where the injuries are. If it's like, if Josh Anderson gets injured, the ideal call-up's Jakai, right?
Yeah.
If Newhook gets injured, Josh Waugh's probably makes sense to be called up, and it'll depend how they're doing in the AHL. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he played some games, and they make the playoffs, and there's injuries. He could be. He plays a playoff style of hockey too, right? You might see him by playoff time too.
Listen, it's all well and good, right, to build a team with all this talent, but I think we've seen that hasn't worked for Carolina. that hasn't worked for some other teams in NHL history that are really pretty in the regular season. And then you just disappear when you get swallowed up by steamrollers like the Panthers the last 3 seasons, the final with their 2 cups. And
I think it cost Jeff or Gorton his job in New York, perhaps, that
maybe
they didn't have what it turned out to be a very hard team, and they looked decent in the regular season, but then they got kind of steamrolled there. Remember when Panarin, was it Panarin that got the guy was, and nobody came to his rescue and stuff, and that kind of
the Tom Wilson bowling ball game,
right,
where he knocked them all down.
The
Rangers.
What do you think of Wilson? What do you think of Wilson? Wilson Josh Anderson fight last year?
Oh, I loved it. So, like, Josh Anderson beat Trouba, and that was stepping up for a hit from the year before, right, on Barron.
Right. Yep.
And then he jumps in and he fought Wilson, and I thought he got the W in that as well. Like Josh is unbelievable. Like, he fit in so well last year, and he was in the right spot, and I think he feeds off the team too. If the team's doing well, he seems to get injured less. I don't know. Probably just pure speculation because I'm such a fan of the guy. We all saw, when he was a Hab killer before they picked him up. He scored so many big goals against Montreal. I was going, geez, somebody check this guy. But you can't. He's a runaway train when he gets going. But at least last year, unlike the year before, he got some goals early and gave him some confidence, and he scored some big goals. He banged in a lot of crease crashers too, like ones where you got to go where dirty spots and stuff. And I thought his fights that he got into, I wish he had gone a little bit more mental there in that playoff exchange with Wilson, because I was on the bench. All bets were off at that point.
Yeah.
But still, he stood up for himself. He stood up for the team, everything that was happening. It was probably one of the more exciting nights in the playoffs with everything that happened in that game. It just gave so many of the guys a bit of a window into what the playoffs are going to be like. It's just the fact Montreal made it last year. Not one single pundit or expert or prognosticator expected them to be there.
I'm sorry, Liam. I know you've said that a few times. You know what? The eternal optimist, I predicted that they were going to make the playoffs.
Did you?
I don't know if you want to call me a pundit or whatever, but I did.
I don't remember that, so I apologize.
I was the exception.
You're the one.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know of anybody else that really believe that in their heart, but if you're telling me you really believe that in your heart, then kudos to you, man, because I certainly didn't. And I did not see the playoffs I saw another improvement. I figured where they were going to be, and I was pretty close on the point total. It's just, it was just a point or two less, I think, than what I expected to make it. And as a result, they got in, and I think it was fantastic. So good on you. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they finished in the top 8 and they got in.
No.
So it was that's a great thing. I expect them to make it this year again, but you can't go back to 3 or 4 key injuries or something and expect call-ups are going to carry the mail. So they've been relatively healthy, for a couple of years here now, after setting records for a number of years, right? I mean, they set records, 400 game, 500 man games lost, and things of that nature. So Josh Anderson, he can be a difference maker, and you get him in the right spot where I think he's been slotted definitely last year. And it was just so encouraging to watch because things just seem to fall into place. You got so much out of Hudson. We didn't know what to expect. Now you're bringing in Noah Dobson. I mean, so much starts with defending and moving up with the puck successfully out of the zone. So you can maybe get a few more controlled entries. If you, and I don't know this, I don't follow it analytically to the nth degree, but I don't think you need to be the greatest scout of all time or the greatest analyst of all time to know if you're controlling the puck on an entry more often than not, especially with the talent they're aligning themselves with, then good things are going to happen. Even if you draw penalties and you've got a power play running at, even if it's low 20s. Low 20s is exceptional. That's top 10 power play in the NHL. And there's, Montreal's hanging around there. Look at their penalty killing last year. So it'll be interesting to see without Armia and how that transitions on the PK. But again, these are some of the why factors that I touched on earlier from a player point of view, but these are all questions just for Montreal. They're questions for the majority of the league, let's be honest. So,
Anderson and Gallagher on your fourth line that's pretty impressive, I think. If they're how many fourth lines are going to have 2 guys like that on it? It's a testament to the depth that they now have, and I also think they've got. Their third pairing is going to be really solid on defense too. So there's depth now from first line to fourth line, first pairing to third pairing that we haven't seen in decades as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree. And, the Panthers last year, I think they had, I believe, 4 guys in their 30s. in the playoffs, I think. And the year before, they had a couple of more. They had some guys that they had picked up sort of trade deadline-ish that were in their 30s, but I think they were closer to 6, I think, in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, veterans are an integral part. You're not going to win the Stanley Cup with 18 guys that are under the age of 25. You're
Right.
not going to win the Stanley Cup with 6 Lane Hudsons on defense, as good as he is.
Right.
You know, it's going to be a challenge to find that mesh come playoff time. And this is where I think Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have done an exceptional job to date. There's nothing really you can give them than an A, if not A plus in their tenure here so far in Montreal. Minimally, it's an A, minimally. And, you know, with a couple of things maybe to see what happens here, how it pans out on some of their deals in the last 12 to 24 months.
So you're saying Matheson should stay in the lineup then? They need that. They need that 30-year-old.
you need some 30-year-olds. I'm not necessarily thinking maybe he's the guy, but
no,
I don't want to come across as
I get that impression.
the guy. You know what? It just I had some real bad flashbacks of PK Subban in Montreal where his game deteriorated into one of 3 things: racing up the center ice, butting, hooking back, you know, so all the fans could watch him pirouette, as the wingers are busting at Yvon Cornelier speed. The high flip pass to Pacioretty, which worked once and then never worked again. And then his bad pinches, which averaged about 5 a game. And I was ready to break 19 TV sets watching that guy play. And when I watched Mike Matheson on the power play 2 years ago, inexplicably, every time the puck was on the blue line and hit his stick, it was like there was a little grenade in the tape, and it just went poof, and the puck just disappeared down the ice, over his stick, through his legs, in his pad somewhere. And I went, what is going on? He's one of the most talented puck carriers as a D-man in the league, and he can't keep it in at the blue line to save his life.
What drove me crazy was the Slaf open on the one side all the time, and he never ever passed it to him. It was weird, either
some guys feel they want to dictate. I'm gonna dictate.
Yeah, it was either going to Caulfield, or he tried to lob it on net, or he turned it over. It was one of those 3 options. Slaf would be over there ready for the one-timer, and he never ever passed it to him. And it just, you gotta use everybody on the power. You're up a man, use all 5 men. That's what a power play. That's the definition of a power play.
Bang on, Tal. And I got to get going, but let's finish on Slaf, because we haven't touched on him, and first overall pick, and there's been, what's been good in his game is what we've seen, that he's done some things, and I saw some improvement in that last year, and I guess we're all kind of wondering, he's still so freaking young.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any news on the physical testing of anybody. We talked earlier in the start of this little hit about how Dach and Laine look on camera and stuff. I haven't seen hardly anything. I don't know if Slaf's a few pounds down or same weight or whatever, but I think he's got potential to be an absolute beast in this league, which I think could be upwards of 70-plus points. I really believe he has the potential to score 70-plus points. I don't know if we'll see it this year or not, but I'm hoping for another progression. But just to finish, Grant, some thoughts from you on Slaf.
Yeah. Well, if he gets off to even halfway decent start this year, like in the second half of the last 2 seasons, he's probably on pace for 70 points easily, if you just took the second half of the last 2 years. So if he can be anywhere close to 35 points in the first half of this year, then he'll breeze to 70 points plus.
That's a big ask, man. You're talking 41 games, 35 points. Like, if you look at it literally at 50%,
right? I think if he's even over 25 to 30, then he can, because for whatever reasons, he seems to get better as the year goes on. It was even the same in his draft year, but here's hoping that he gets off to that quicker start, because you know as well as anybody, Liam, having played the game, and when you're not scoring and you lose that confidence, it's tough. And he just, once he scored a couple in the second half of the last 2 years, you could see the confidence grow, and he'd shoot more, not gripping the stick as tightly. It's I hope last year he started the year with Dach and Newhook.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, and they kept it together, and it didn't work. Then they brought Suzuki onto that line with Dach and Slaf, and it still didn't work. Finally, when they put him back on the top line with the big guns, then he got his game together. Well, he's going to start the year with familiar line mates, the best line mates, and I think you're going to see a quicker start from him this year. I really hope so. I think it's important. If the same thing happens, like if he has a Josh Anderson start like 2 years ago, to his year, it's not going to be good. And the pressure will build, and the first pick, he's a bust, especially if Cooley or Wright. Imagine if Wright got off to a quick start and Slaf didn't, right? Then you'll start hearing it. So it's imperative that he gets some points to start the year, and I think he will. And if he does, then I see a progression 60 to 70. I think is quite realistic this year.
I think so too, and he so far looks pretty durable. He actually, I think, could really, I don't know, become a full-time, like, or a real good power forward. But I think the potential is there, man. The little glints that we've seen have been the morsels we've seen have been so encouraging, and there's been some good runs, like you said, the second halves of these 2 seasons. So, but listen, buddy, there'll be lots more Habs talk coming to everybody here on the HabsCast and on our own shows that Grant has set up with such a phenomenal stable of guys. I'm very fortunate to be part of it, and I had high expectations to keep the guests rolling for you this week, but I can guarantee everybody, Grant and I have talked about this, I will be on the road. I think we've got at least 6 trips booked with the Legends of Hockey. There's former Montreal Canadiens on every one of them, and they'll be joining the Montreal Forum show with yours truly this season, along with, of course, commenting on all the other Montreal stories, and they're endless. They will be endless once the puck starts dropping, for real or not, here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So on that note, Grant, let's sign off today, and thank everybody for viewing, and we'll catch them next time on your next HabsCast.